In the early 1990s, Steve Benson learned of an Institute for Learning and Retirement at a small university on the East Coast. He imagined the possibility of this kind of institute right here at the University of Minnesota. With Steve's superb networking skills, he recruited a small band of volunteers who together hatched plans to draw on the many talents of older adults to build a learning community here. Together, they fostered excitement for the idea, put together an infrastructure, and in 1995, they founded the Elder Learning Institute. That fall, OLLI, as the Elder Learning Institute came to be known, kicked off with 13 courses. By spring, OLLI had over 200 members. As the Elder Learning Institute continued to grow, more members joined, more courses were introduced, and OLLI's scope expanded. In addition to courses, OLLI hosted more ways to get involved, including field trips and learning abroad opportunities. Classes were held on campus and also at a variety of locations in the community. By 2004, the Elder Learning Institute had grown to over 600 members. At this point, OLLI was invited to join the Osher Foundation's network of learning institutes. In 2005, OLLI officially became the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of Minnesota.
So I was looking for something to do, and I had heard about a program in lifelong learning and thought that was an ideal thing for the University of Minnesota. And it turned out that Vice President Mel George of the University of Minnesota thought it was a great idea and said, go out and find people that might be interested in this. And I did. And then in the spring of 1995, we became the Elder Learning Institute of the University of Minnesota.
I went to a baseball game with a friend of mine, and his father-in-law was involved at OLLI as a participant and said, you should go do this. And I had plenty of time, so I just started taking classes.
I had friends who just raved and raved and raved about OLLI, and I thought, I should check this out.
Ron retired and was kind of looking around for something to keep him occupied, and friends of ours asked about how he was doing. I said, well, yeah, he's a little bored, and they said, oh, you should try OLLI at the university.
They overheard two women in an art class that I was in about this organization called OLLI.
My church group, I was teaching a retirement class, and she was a big fan of OLLI, and I checked it out and I was hooked very quickly.
I happened to keep an email contact with an old friend of mine from high school days who lives in Lubbock, Texas, and in one of the emails he mentioned that he was taking an OLLI course, and I said, what's OLLI? Because I had no idea what it was.
I retired at the end of the year 2000, and after a year and a half or so, I realized I was getting bored. And I happened to find a brochure for something called OLLI, the Elder Learning Institute at the university.
Originally, I ran OLLI out of my house and out of the back of my car, which some people called Steve Benson's trunk. We held all of our classes in the campus club and for a number of years. And then we were invited by, at that time, CCE, which had been our home department, to come to the campus, and then we moved to the brand new McNamara Alumni Center and held our classes there, and also at churches, libraries, and community centers throughout the metropolitan area. And 18 years ago, there was a very special luncheon at the Alumni Center, and we became full-fledged members of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute.
One thing about OLLI that I have always liked is the way, in small ways and large, it connects us to people we admire or feel kinship with, you know, because they care about the same topics or they have personalities that we appreciate or something like that.
To meet all kinds of people and
intellectual challenges and broadening and intellectual things and learning about different things.
I just can't imagine not having OLLI in my life. It's been so much joy. It's been wonderful to meet friends. I've made a very dear friend through OLLI, and it's been a part of my purpose.
The great thing about OLLI classes is, as you know, you're not graded, you don't have homework, and you don't have to be an expert in what you're taking. And so, you know, since I started with OLLI, my class selection has been very broad.
Even with the Zoom classes, it gave me a connection to what I've always enjoyed doing, and that's learning stuff.
It's all the great experiences in the classroom without the homework, without the tests, without all the extras. So I just love being able to just consume all this information. But in addition to that, it's the intelligent, curious, fun people that are associated with both teaching at OLLI and the students at OLLI.
I didn't grow up in Minnesota. And so over the years, particularly before COVID, but there are a number of classes of let's physically go visit places. So I took classes on churches in the Twin Cities, museums, the skyways, you know, where people who knew these places, you know, would go, and you physically went and saw places that I didn't even know necessarily existed. Some I'd never even driven by. But even the ones I'd driven by, you come in and you learn about them at a depth that I never would have otherwise.
Well, it gave me something to do with my time right away when I retired. And I tended to take classes that Eric Nathanson would lead that get you out in the community walking around and learning about different neighborhoods and stuff. And so I learned a lot about the Twin Cities, and being a St. Paul person, his classes were great to get me over into Minneapolis and walk around neighborhoods in Minneapolis that I had never explored before.
One of the last large trips before COVID, and that was a trip to India. That was wonderful because it was led by somebody named Don Johnson, who had been curator of the U of M's South Asia Library before he retired. And he regularly teaches a fascinating OLLI course on Indian textiles. He has collected textiles on his own for 50 or 60 years now.
We thought we've done several trips with OLLI, and the one that really sticks in our mind was when we went to Iceland. That trip was just really incredible. We have a lot of visual memories from that trip with Jeannie Hansen.
In 2004, one of my classes, a woman sat down next to me. We started chatting, and after a few more get-togethers away from the class, we decided we should be partners, and we're still at it 19 years later.
I think SIGs are fabulous because they give you repeated exposure to the same people over and over, so you can actually build a little friendship if you feel kinship with somebody.
Yeah, I have a really good friend that I met through OLLI, and it was back in the days where we used to get a manual of everybody's, or a booklet of everybody's address and phone number and everything. And so I was always looking for somebody I could carpool with. And this person lived in St. Paul, and so we started carpooling class together, and it turned out we have a lot of common interests, and sometimes we finished each other's sentences. I mean, we still get together with them a lot.
One of my greatest joys is when I talk to groups or organizations about OLLI, and there's somebody in the group who's also a member, and you just have this affinity with people who know about OLLI.
OLLI creates a community that allows you to, well, it's much like when you're in a major in college and you have a feeling, I'm going to know people in this class when I walk in.
And I think what's happened is as I've evolved and I've tried to use the principles of contemporary teaching that say, don't just be a sage on the stage, be more of a guide on the side.
I think the social part, the getting together, was the really best part of all of the activities.
Over the years, I've met lots and lots of delightful and extraordinary people, such as Ruth and Ray Krebs, who I've known, and we have continued to get together pretty much up until COVID, and now looking forward to extending that relationship. Another very remarkable person is Cherie Hamilton, who I've known for many, many years. She came and taught courses for OLLI, and then has since led tours to Brazil and Portugal.
Again, it kind of made me think, you know, I could do this, and maybe OLLI has a place for people who are kind of really passionate about mathematics too. There's issues there that many people don't realize, and you know, if I can talk about them and hopefully interest people in them, that's fun, right?
Teaching classes, as someone once said, the best way to learn is to teach. You know, when you don't know something, say, I'll teach about it, and then you really have to go and learn it. And so that's been really good. I read a book. I read a book called Baseball as a Road to God. Right? And so I talked to Tyke, who used to work in the OLLI office, and I said, hey, I just read a good book. I think it'd be a good OLLI class. Ending it at there. And Tyke, of course, comes back and says, great, you want to teach it? I think a whole lot of people involved in OLLI have, you know, the skills to tell a story. That's basically what OLLI is. Telling stories about subjects I know of.
All of us that are teaching are committed to continuing to evolve with best practices, with engaging our students, continue the great classes we've got.
I love all the classes on China that I've taken, and I love all my classes on the Middle East that I've also taken. Oh, I've just taken an array of classes.
I think my favorite that I ever took was about, it was philosophical, it was Plato. A gentleman named Joseph Wemera led that class.
For first year, I think I was in a class, then it was something about economics. And the instructors kind of said something, and someone in the audience said, but how does that affect the currency in Brazil? And I went, what the heck am I in here? And then it became apparent to me, I mean, this audience is full of educated and experienced people. They know a lot. They have a lot of experiences, but they don't flaunt it, you know?
Another fabulous course I took was by George Dow, who was presenting ideas for a fulfilling retirement and many ways you could go about sorting through your current activities, your likes, your dislikes, to come up with fabulous things to focus on.
I was bored with retirement. I needed something to do, and that's what OLLI has given me.
I think we have a lot of opportunities to expand and to grow, and I think our curriculum is just amazing.
In the last 3 years since COVID been here, you know, OLLI was a lifesaver in many ways.
And how couldn't the future of OLLI be so bright under the leadership now of Kate Schaefer's and the growing population of retiring or elderly people who love lifelong learning?
Over the course of these 28 years, OLLI has successfully sustained a sense of community while growing in impact. From humble beginnings at the university's campus club to a rich and varied curriculum of hundreds of classes, OLLI continues to evolve and grow in scope and impact. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, OLLI members have maintained a sense of community, identity, and culture. A culture that values connections with the world around us, open-mindedness, and above all else, learning.